Hey there, thanks for watching. So the question was asked, and I feel like I have to come clean with you guys. Where am I in my debt payoff journey? The big question, the reason I started this YouTube channel, and really sort of that like big looming thing that's been hanging over my head. Where am I in my student loan payoff journey? So just to recap, I started this channel with $20,000 in student loan debt, and my goal was to pay it off in 1 year. At the time, that was a very reasonable goal and potentially achievable, and I had a steep housing increase during that time, and it was no longer as achievable as it once was. So fast forward a couple of years, and I still got this debt hanging around. So I started out with 20,000. Right now I'm at 14,000. And so the short answer to where I am in that repayment is I'm still paying it off. I have $129 minimum payment, and I'm still making that every month. And it's just kind of on autopilot. It's on auto deposit. So it just comes out naturally, or not automatically, every month. And if I were to keep on this track, I think it would take something like 7 years to pay off. It's not a short time, but it's not it's not a short time, and it's not a long time really either in the grand scheme of things, but it's way too slow for me. That is my only debt. The only debt I have is my student loan debt. So I'm kind of in the last leg, and so that's the short answer of where I am. Auto debit, $129 on just about $14,000 left. It'll take a long time to pay off. So at the beginning of the year, I feel like I do this every year. I'm like, this is the year I get out of debt. And then I always end up tanking right around this time, right around like April, May. I start losing hope, losing focus, because it just seems so big and so insurmountable. And I figure, well, if I can't do it in a year, I don't want to do it. This is mistake number one. So here's what I'm planning to do differently. Like, this year is going to be different. And I'm telling you why. So number one, I have my notes down here. Number one, I feel like I had been setting unrealistic goals. I know that, and I knew that before. So I think I am going to begin setting slightly more realistic goals, and even if they're not as exciting or sexy, because there's that like allure of doing something super fast and having that achievement behind you. You can say, yeah, I did it in this amount of time. Like, I am winning no awards for speed at this point. Like, I am like the turtle. I am the tortoise in the race for sure. And I'm like, at times I'm barely like keeping my little legs moving. So that's the number one like challenge that I'm facing. The story that I'm rewriting to tell myself and what I'm doing different is, you're still different. You're still doing something differently and what I believe to be better than like 70% of Americans. 70% of Americans have consumer loan debt, and I am not in that 70%. So I'm still in the 30% of Americans that do not have consumer loan debt. So, and who actively have a plan to pay off their student loan debt ahead of time. So I try to tell myself that, and that's different because most people don't have a plan, and I do have a plan. And so that's what sets me apart as well. When I get discouraged on myself and thinking, oh, what's the point? I say, you know what? The point is the plan, and the point is to work toward a better future. So that's number one. Number two is make your plan more realistic, which I hate the idea of because it's just not motivating to me to cut down the amount of time. However, I tell myself what is motivating is to have no debt and to owe nobody anything. So that's motivating. So instead of aiming to have my debt paid off by the end of the year, I'm thinking 24 months. And I'll tell you why I'm thinking 24 months in step 3. So I have that 129 minimum, which is just auto debited from my account every month. And then in order to pay off that 14K in 24 months, that would be an additional $455 a month, which even on my super tight margins is doable, and is a lot more doable than $1,000, which is what it would be to pay, well, more than $1,000 to pay it off by the end of the year. And I think that having a more realistic plan will kind of let me take a deep breath and say, this is the plan, and if you can exceed it, great, but this is still the plan, let's shoot for this. So that's step number 2, slightly modifying my plan. Step number 3, and this is kind of, it sounds like an excuse, and I don't mean it to sound like an excuse. I mean it to be realistic. And I know that one of my sort of defense mechanisms is to be defensive, and I don't mean it to sound that way at all. But I want to remind myself that my number one goal is not to get out of debt. My number one goal is to remain financially solvent and independent. And that I have a house, a mortgage payment that I'm partially responsible for, and that's kind of taking precedent right now. And it's fully something that I'm fully, I guess, taking responsibility for and fully okay with. Like, this emotionally feels good to me. I'm happy to be able to do this. It doesn't feel good. It feels necessary. No, it feels accurate for right now. So that's number one. And my cost of living, I've said this before, my cost of living are really, really high. They're about 60% of my take home, which is way beyond the recommended. And the fact that we've managed to survive for this long is astounding. And to have any emergency fund of any sort is difficult but doable. So that I have to remind myself is my number one focus with my money at the moment. So those 3 things kind of help me stay on task, stay on target. So that's kind of where I am with my journey. And that's the modified plan going forward. So, and as always, I am so grateful for this community, for the accountability, the accountability that it encourages, and I really appreciate it. So I appreciate you for watching, and I hope that you'll keep watching. Bye.